Hello. Um, I wanted to do one video about base coaches. I've mentioned it in a couple previous videos, but I never really explained it, the concept. Let's see if I can do it in 5 minutes or less. When you hire a coach generally out of CanSkate or switch to a coach, you're basically hiring a base coach. The base coach is the coach who manages your child's or your skating career and makes all the decisions for strategic and tactical things like when and where to test. The problem is the duties of the base coach and the responsibilities of the base coach, first of all, aren't very transparent. They're not really advertised anywhere. I don't think most parents are aware that there's a difference between a coach and a base coach, or they don't understand the difference that a base coach has. They kind of think when they hire a coach, they hire someone to come in and give their kids skating lessons, which is actually not not the responsibility of the base coach at all. The base coach doesn't have to give the kid any lessons, give the client any lessons. The base coach's job is just to organize the skating season. There is a device called a YPI that I'm not sure if it's in the coaching 2 or coaching 3 level, but it's called a yearly planning instrument. And coaches are supposed to write this out for all skaters, theoretically, but it takes several hours per skater and meetings. And unless you're, a lot of people just aren't willing to put that kind of effort in. But the YPI is supposed to chart all your major competitions, all your major test days, which theoretically it would be nice to know the dates of at the beginning of the year, but we never do here in Nova Scotia. And based on that information, based on your competition and test information, the base coach identifies which competitions are important, are goal competitions that you want to peak at, and which ones are preparatory competitions that you use in order to peak properly at the right competitions. Usually you want to at least have a minor peak at qualifying competitions, otherwise you won't qualify for the next event in many cases. But you want your major peak at your major event of the year, the end of season event, so to speak. It's also important for the base coach to identify where the beginning and the end of the season is. It's completely different for competitive versus recreational skaters. Competitive skaters, especially if you're novice, if you're novice, junior, senior, your competitive season basically starts in spring, the beginning of spring, and it goes to late winter or early spring, which is when nationals and international events start, Grand Prix events start. Actually, your season might not even start until summer. I'm not exactly sure what the dates of the Grand Prix are. That's not information I need to have. If you're a Nova Scotian competitive skater, generally your season ends at Atlantics or Challenge. Sorry, Challenge is a national event that goes in late November, just after sectionals. Sectionals is the qualifying event for Challenge. So technically your season ends with Challenge in November, which is a completely different schedule of requirements than a fully competitive skater, a fully internationally competitive skater. And then you have recreational skaters, where our season usually ends in Nova Scotia, at least at Atlantics. The qualifier used to be provincials, but now it's Rob McCall. So you got to peak slightly in January, when you're not helping. It's raining out. I'm not putting you out. You got to peak slightly at Rob McCall in order to qualify. It's not that hard though. And then you have provincials, which is now a weird isolated event that doesn't mean a lot, except it's nice to say that you're provincial champion, so it is kind of something. And then after provincials is Atlantics, which is the premier event of the recreational season for people. And then after that is the end of the season. Now most purist recreational skaters don't skate summer school. They don't generally skate June, so your season kind of peters out to a test day, hopefully at the end of spring. However many weeks or months you have left after Atlantic Championships. and then starts again in September, October, whenever your club starts. Um, does this need to be longer? Oh, so the base coach, in addition, after we set up the framework for the season, you discuss where you should sharpen your skates to not detrimentally affect any of those events, any of them, test days, competitions. You kind of plan out where to do test days, but to some extent, you're limited by the availability of test days and when the skater's ready to test, and also whether or not you can test without changing your competition event. Um, so basically, the coach just and when you get into higher levels, the base coach also even competitive, low-level competitive skaters. You also get into the base coach has to make sure that their skater is. They kind of have to manage stress levels, so they have to deal with sleep problems of their skaters, medication of their skaters, nutrition, diet of their skaters, and it becomes the base coach becomes more involved in that as you get more and more serious about skating. But all that's decided by the base coach. The base coach also decides, which is very important, who gives lessons to the skater. So they assess what the skater needs. Do they need more jump training? Do they need more spin training? Do they need more choreography? When do they need their choreography? Do they need dance training, partnering, stroking, whatever? And then they assign coaches to do that. Now, the way it tends to work in small towns, in isolated places, and in Nova Scotia, or has worked in the past, is your base coach is your coach, and your coach just does all your coaching for you. Occasionally or often, base coaches will bring in a choreographer or a dance partner, or either or, to enhance their coaching. But occasionally, you'll get groups of coaches where the base coach actually hires a whole team of coaches to do coaching for them. And the base coach starts to just be a manager for the whole thing. And jumps are taught by someone, spins are taught by someone, choreography, dance skills. You can have a whole team of coaches that you're supervising the whole thing for. Oh, the other thing the base coach does is chooses music or works with the skater to choose music. Most often chooses music and designs and arranges outfits, oversees, just essentially manages every aspect of the skater's skating. And this is something that I don't think parents, it's not very transparent, again, what a base coach is and what parents' responsibility is to the base coach and base coach's responsibility is to the parents. And if you're a parent and you have a problem with one of the coaches coaching your kid, do you go to that coach or do you go to your base coach? You're actually supposed to go to your base coach, not the coach that you have problems with, which is usually what happens. But people really get confused and they think, well, I have 4 coaches. No, you don't have 4 coaches. You have one coach, one base coach. One coach who's making all the decisions, and that coach is hiring other coaches who are working for the base coach, not really for the parent. It gets a little bit confusing, but it's not really that. I don't think it's really that confusing. It's actually way more strange and confusing if you consider yourself to have 4 or 5 different coaches. Really, everybody just has one coach. Now, in some of the more successful clubs in Canada, this is the last thing I'm going to do, I think. Some of the more successful clubs in Canada, there's a lot of group lessons and a lot of cooperation. But what they tend to do is, it's a lot of work to be a base coach and to manage different skaters' careers. So if you have 30, 40, 50 skaters in your club, you can't have the head coach being the base coach of all 40 skaters. What tends to happen is the base coach duties are spread among all the coaches. So if you have 8 coaches in the club, each coach will have 5 or 6 base skaters. They'll be the base coach for 5 or 6 skaters. And then all the coaches will work with everyone, but how that happens is organized for each particular skater is organized by their base coach. I hope that explains that a little. So what you're doing when you hire, this is again a big misconception in Nova Scotia. A lot of people think when they're hiring a coach, they're hiring a coach who has the most technical expertise, the highest coaching certification, the best managerial skills, whatever, a variety of different things. But really they're only hiring, the person you're hiring doesn't even have to be good at skating, coaching skating. developing talent or anything. They just have to be good at hiring people that develop talent, which is a difference that's now being seen a little bit in Nova Scotia, but for many years wasn't. People often felt when you hired a coach, that coach was responsible for everything, and that's just not the case. The coach is supposed to be aware of where their abilities are and where they aren't, and shore up their weaknesses with other coaching, with what do you call it? I can't remember. Assistant coaching, I guess. So hopefully that clears a few things up. Yeah, that's it. Well, yeah, that's it.